If your behavior data is scattered, inconsistent, or you're scrambling every time an IEP comes up, this is the system I use to keep everything organized without feeling overwhelmed. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel from the Behavior Check-In, and I'm a K-12 behavior specialist and special education teacher, and I help teachers with real strategies for real classrooms. Let's be real. This is the time of year when behavior data becomes super stressful really fast. You've got so many meetings. You've got IEP meetings, you've got annuals, you've got progress reports, you have ESY, behavior plans, and of course, a million other things to do, observations, behaviors popping off. It's the spring. It's crazy. And if your data isn't organized ahead of time, it can turn into scrambling, guessing, or trying to piece things together at the last minute, which leads to burnout. So I want to take you through a simple system that actually works in real classrooms. And this is the system that I use. So it's not just something that I put together in theory, it works in practice. So step one, decide what you're tracking and keep it simple. The first mistake I see is teachers trying to track everything. You don't need to track everything. You need to track what matters. When you're looking at behavior, I really want you to focus on the target behavior, how often it happens, or how long it lasts, and the level of support needed. These are the most important pieces that you need data-wise. So here's some examples. Instead of tracking 10 different things, choose one thing. Task refusal, frequency. Off-task behavior, the percentage of how often they're off-task. Elopement, the number of incidents, the duration of the incidences. The prompt level, how much of it is independent, verbal, or how much prompting do you have to do to help the student? I want you to think of it this way. If you can't explain what you're tracking in one sentence, it's way too complicated. Step two, use simple data types. Don't overcomplicate it. You really only need a few types of data. Frequency, how many times something happens. For example, the student engaged in task refusal 4 times during a 30-minute work period. 2, duration, how long something lasts. For example, the student remained off task for a total of 12 minutes during independent work time. 3, percentage, how often something is successful. For example, the student completed tasks independently in 70% of opportunities. 4, prompt level, how much support is actually needed for the student. For example, the student required verbal prompts in 3 out of 5 transitions. The big picture here, you don't need fancy data, you need to have consistent data, and you do this by having a system that works for you. Step 3, make data collection realistic. This is the key. If it's not realistic, you're not going to do it. If your system is too complicated, you're not going to do it. So build into what you're already doing that works for you. I'm showing you what I do, but maybe you need something different, and that is okay. So here are some real classroom examples. During independent work, tally the number of refusals. You can do this simple on the board. You can do it on Post-it, whatever. During transitions, track the prompts. During small group, note engagement. Super simple. You can do it in a notebook, you can do it in a Google Doc, it doesn't matter, whatever works for you. Pick one time of the day to consistently collect data. That makes it a lot easier for you so you are not overwhelmed. An example of this would be always collecting data during independent work time because that's when the behavior tends to show up. And you would know when the behavior tends to show up because you know your students and you have data on this. This creates consistency without overwhelming you. Step 4, use a simple tracking format. You don't need complicated forms. You can use a basic table, a checklist, a digital tracker, a notebook. I've seen teachers even write it on the side of their whiteboard, whatever. The kids don't know what you're tracking, but you know, and that's the most important thing. So here's an example table that I use. It has the date, behavior, frequency notes. It has the task refusal, prompts, all of that. This is just something super simple that I use. And other thing that you could use for percentage, and this would be an example of task completion, and then you would have the percentage of how many times that they were completing said task. The real goal in this situation is quick and usable. Step 5, review your data weekly, not just at IEP time. This changes everything. If you're only looking at your data when an IEP is due, it will always feel overwhelming. Instead, take 5 minutes once a week to look for patterns, improvements, problem areas. I do this. I glance over everything on Monday morning and I look at everything and see what I need to adjust. You could do this on Friday. You could do it on Wednesday, whatever works for you. But you might notice that refusals are increasing during math, or that behavior improves with certain structures that have been in place, or prompts are decreasing over time. This also is really helpful because you can kind of be excited and celebrate when you see these trends, because often we don't feel it in the moment, but it's good to see it on paper. So when we do this, your data becomes useful, it becomes clear, and it becomes ready when you need it. And once again, it also validates what you're doing. We need this as teachers. We really do. We need to know that the intervention is working. Step 6. Turn your data into IEP language. This is why we're doing all of this. So for example, the student demonstrated task refusal in 4 out of 5 instances per observation period. And this is particularly during independent work tasks. Another example you could use is data shows an increase of independent task completion from 50% to 75% over the reporting period. Another example could be the student continues to require verbal prompting during transitions in the majority of observed opportunities. If you can say it clearly, you can write it easily. We don't need to overthink this, and we don't need to stress ourselves out. So what if you miss data? This is what happens in real life. You'll miss days. The kids will miss days. It happens. It's just the reality. That does not mean your system fails. I want to repeat, it does not mean your system failed. What you can do instead is look at overall trends, use multiple data points, fill in with observation plus teacher input. You have the data, you just have to know what you're looking for. Consistency over time matters more than perfection every single day. I don't want you to throw out your whole system because you weren't perfect on it and then stress yourself out and start over again. I've done that. So real talk moment. You are not a data machine. You are a teacher. Your system should support you and not overwhelm you. And the goal is not to collect perfect data. The goal is to understand your students and support them effectively. I know you know the data and I know you've got the data. You've just got to have a simple way to do this. This is exactly why having a simple and organized system matters, because when your data is all in one place, everything becomes easier during IEP season. It becomes easier when you write your IEPs, when you do your progress reports, when you have your meetings. You are not scrambling. You are prepared because you put in a little bit of the work up front and now you have it in front of you and your system is working for you. If your data has been feeling very overwhelming, I want you to remember this. Start simple. Pick one behavior, track it consistently, and review it weekly. That is how you build a system that actually works and is sustainable for you. If this video was helpful, make sure you like and subscribe for more behavior and special education strategies. And I'll see you next Sunday in the next video.